There's a 100% failure rate for sex change operations, isn't there? Because it's not possible to change your sex.
That's right.
100% failure rate for these procedures.
That's right. You can't change your sex.
For president have been provided Secret Service protection, but not for him. He explained that the turnaround time for filing a request is usually 14 days, but after more than 80 days of no response, he got a denial. Homeland Security Secretary Alejandro Mayorkas said the protection is not warranted. Kennedy cited a 67-page report from a protection firm which detailed different types of death threats and security risks for him. And newly released emails appear to confirm that Facebook censored content about COVID-19 because of pressure from the Biden administration. This sheds more light on the White House's censorship campaign over the pandemic.
Chairman of the House Judiciary Committee, Jim Jordan, released emails the panel obtained from Facebook. They confirmed that Facebook censored content about the origins of COVID-19 due to pressure from the White House. In one of the emails, Nick Clegg, Facebook's head of global affairs, asked colleagues in July 2021 why Facebook was removing rather than demoting or labeling claims that COVID is man-made. Another Facebook employee wrote, "Because we were under pressure from the administration and others to do more." According to the employee, Facebook removed multiple claims because fact-checkers labeled them false, even though the social media company didn't assess the posts as causing harm. In another message, a Facebook employee said that Surgeon General Vivek Murthy, quote, wants us to remove true information about side effects if the user does not provide complete information about whether the side effect is rare and treatable. Jordan said in a statement that the documents reveal Facebook bowed to the Biden White House's pressure to remove posts. Documents in recent lawsuits, such as Missouri versus Biden, have shown that the Biden administration repeatedly urged social media companies to censor content about the pandemic. Reporting by Allison Lee, NTD News.
And two major moves by the Biden administration today. First, to improve the gas efficiency of cars, including passenger cars and trucks. It wants to raise the standard for new vehicles 18% by the 2032 model year. It says this would save vehicle owners over $1,000 in lifetime fuel costs, while increasing average vehicle costs by over $900. There will be a comment period before the rules get finalized.
That ain't saving nobody money.
Doing all this mischief, monkey business around the world, you need to separate those functions into agencies so that the Espionage Division is actually looking over the shoulder of the Plans Division and looking at blowback. And saying, oh yeah, okay, well you did kill that one terrorist with a drone strike in Afghanistan, but he has 12 brothers, and they all now are wearing suicide vests and causing all this problem. So, it didn't solve, it solved one problem, but by creating 10 new ones. And that, unfortunately, blowback is never accounted for in the CIA, ever. I think yeah, let's go over there.
You know, just so that you know the inside story of this mysterious interview, we've been moving around to get a little cooler, so you'll be seeing jump cuts like Jean-Luc Godard. Anyway, let's move over to the sister in crime here, the FBI, that has been in the focus of a lot of people, as you're well aware. What would we know the history of your father with the FBI. Was not a happy one.
There's always been a concern that if you have a national police agency, it will be weaponized by political, by the president to serve a political agenda. And that was a fear from the beginning of the creation, when both the FBI and in 1947, the CIA, was authorized. Everybody, Republicans, Democrats, were deeply, deeply concerned because they said these national police agencies are really a feature of totalitarian regimes like the Stasi and East Germany, the KGB in Russia. And we have had a problem from at least the 1960s of the FBI being weaponized against political dissent. And then there were reforms in the 70s and 80s to a series of FBI directors after Hoover's death I've tried to depoliticize the agency, but it now is heavily politicized. We saw, the FBI legitimizing a lot of the Russiagate, the propaganda against Trump, and I'm not a fan of Trump's, but I don't think that the FBI should be deployed against any presidential candidate, whether I agree with that candidate or not. And the Chris Steele file, all of these things that have now, the Durham report has shown us that a lot of those are untrue. They were propaganda that was embedded by people within those agencies. And both the CIA participated too. You had 60 CIA agents or high-level officials signing a public letter that said that the Hunter Biden laptop was a fake, it was Russian disinformation, when they either didn't know or they knew it was a lie.
Yeah.
And that's something that we should not tolerate.
Do you think they should be punished for this?
Yeah, of course they should. So if you can't punish them directly, you at least have truth and reconciliation committees or processes that air these to the public and make everybody know the truth about all of these issues that people are worried about.
This has been very interesting. Shall we move on to healthcare? Because I think the Epoch Times audience has been, as you probably know, because you've been interviewed by them numerous times, by Jan and other people, very interested in what went on during COVID. And many of them, as I have read and admired your book on Fauci, how would you deal in a Kennedy presidency with the role of government and healthcare? Because it's a very dicey area, I see.
It's not that dicey. It's, there's a big problem, which is the regulatory agencies, which used to be gold standard agencies for scientific research and for treatment, have now become captured by the pharmaceutical industry. And instead of promoting public health, they are promoting the mercantile interests of those pharmaceutical companies. And part of that is because of these terrible entanglements, financial entanglements that they have with the industry.
How should that be stopped? Do you think it should be stopped legislation, or can it be stopped executive? Or excuse me?
You need to repeal the Dole-By Act.
You talk often about you're a Kennedy Democrat. So what I presume in that is that you want to revive that era, essentially, whether under your name or...
The Democratic Party, they've back to its core values. How do you protect the environment? How do you protect the American middle class? How do you protect women's rights? How do you protect the rights of minorities? How do we restore our relationships with communities, with the soil, with, and how do we provide clean air and clean water for our children, and, enriching lives and the same opportunities for dignity and enrichment and prosperity and good health as the opportunities in the communities that our parents gave us.
To wrap this up, kind of, because I think I have a feeling that the public, the American person, regardless of his or her party, is yearning for a new kind of bipartisanship and less of this war. We live in a country with families don't look to each other anymore. Do you feel that? Do you feel like your candidacy can help address that?
That's the purpose of my candidacy, is to bring Americans back together, focus on the values that we all share, and to stop focusing so much on the issues that are holding us apart, making us hate each other.
Well, thank you, sir, for this interview. It's really a pleasure to hear you talking. Thank you.
Good to see you.
For spending or raising the likelihood of a government shutdown in October. And TV's Melina Wisecup reports.
It's that time of year again where partisan disputes over spending are on full display here. While both the House and the Senate have passed the National Defense Authorization Act, the versions are a bit different. Those differences need to be reconciled. The main differences here are cultural ones. In the House side, they restricted funding for cultural issues like abortion, transgender care, diversity programs. The vast differences are even more so in the government funding bills. And what's compounding that problem is the fact that there are some in the GOP who are fiercely demanding spending cuts. Even some, like Congressman Bob Good, are willing to risk a government shutdown to meet those demands.
We should not fear a government shutdown. Most of what we do up here is bad anyway. Most of what we do up here hurts the American people.
And here again, they want to strip funding for culture issues. Speaker McCarthy has encouraged House appropriators to write their spending bills under the levels agreed upon in the debt ceiling deal, but Senate appropriators have written their appropriations bills at much higher levels, setting up this collision course.
Look, he is the leader of the Senate, I'm the leader of the House. I don't want government to shut down. I want to find that we can find common ground.
Instead of just throwing out partisan bills that have no chance of passing.
So, Melina, if the House and Senate lawmakers aren't able to come to any type of agreement before September 30th, will there be a government shutdown, or is there another path they could take to avoid it?
We've seen this pretty regularly over the past couple of years, and what could happen is the Congress passes a temporary funding bill, but in this case, they're just spending money to kick the can down the road and deal with these disagreements later. Now, another issue here is that there are some Republicans who routinely vote against these type of temporary funding bills. So in this case, if McCarthy is to take this path, he might have to rely on some Democrat votes.
Melina, thank you for that. And Republican presidential candidates all speaking in Iowa tonight. The Lincoln Dinner is one of the GOP's largest annual fundraisers. Here are the details.
Almost all declared major candidates of the 2024 Republican presidential primary are in Iowa on Friday. They're scheduled to speak at the Lincoln Dinner, a Republican fundraising event in Des Moines. Florida Governor Ron DeSantis made a campaign stop in Albia, Iowa on Friday before heading to the state's capital. Iowa holds the first primary election in the nation. It's considered a key state for the candidates, hoping that they can surpass Trump's strong lead in polling. South Carolina Senator Tim Scott held a town hall in the Hawkeye State on Thursday. On Friday night, 13 Republican candidates each have exactly 10 minutes to address a crowd of around 1,200 people. To ensure compliance with the strict 10-minute rule, microphones will be deactivated after 10 minutes. Only former New Jersey Governor Chris Christie will be absent from the lineup. He's instead focusing his efforts on New Hampshire voters. Tickets to attend the event, which range in price from $150 to more than $1,000 per person, are sold out. Former UN ambassador and South Carolina Governor Nikki Haley is the first speaker. DeSantis is scheduled to be third. Former President Trump is the last speaker of the night. DeSantis is in the middle of rebooting his campaign. A standard reboot usually includes 3 steps: cutting expenses and slashing staff, reshuffled leadership, and a shift in focus to more grassroots, smaller events in early primary states. DeSantis is currently doing all 3 of those things, and the governor is reportedly set to unveil his economic policy in New Hampshire on Monday. The policy is expected to be heavily focused on strategically decoupling the American economy from China and the globalist elites that have been wreaking havoc on the American dream. The speech is set to be the governor's 3rd major policy announcement.
Did former President Trump have security tapes deleted? He says he did nothing wrong. NTD's legal correspondent Arlene Richards has more of Trump's response.
I don't think they think that the tapes were even changed. These were my tapes that we gave to them.
Former President Trump, in an interview on the John Frederick Show, responding to new charges added to his indictment in the classified documents case. In an updated indictment on Thursday, prosecutors accused Trump of 1 additional count of willful retention of national defense information and 2 additional obstruction counts. Prosecutors say Trump asked a staffer, Mar-a-Lago property manager Carlos de Oliveira, to delete camera footage at his Florida estate. This comes as they also added de Oliveira as a 3rd defendant and brought new charges against valet Walt Nelta. Trump told Fredericks that he's not sure he even had to turn over the tapes. He said he thinks prosecutors are trying to intimidate people.
So that people go out and make up lies about me. Because I did nothing wrong.
Some Republicans and Democrats reacted to the new charges.
I've always been concerned. I had dealt with secrets since I was 21 years old, top secrets, and you name it. And we should protect them. And this is not something to take lightly.
Republican Speaker of the House Kevin McCarthy questioned why President Biden hasn't been charged.
When he was a senator, he took a document. How many years is that, and there's been no prosecution? How can you be so quick to judge President Trump in a short time period, and you've had all this other, but you can't deal with that?
I am not a lawyer, but if you are deleting evidence, it's because you know you're committing a crime.
Well, the evidence was already strong in the original indictment, but in this superseding indictment now, you just see how much more evidence the special counsel has.
Trump said despite the new charges, he is still leading in the polls, and he has no
My
plans
God.
to step out of the race. But he
Special
had some
counsel
advice for top contender
Mueller?
Ron DeSantis.
I think he has to get out for the good of the party.
Trump is scheduled to go to trial in May 2024 in Florida, at which point the Republican nomination may already be decided.
There's a 100% failure rate for sex change operations, isn't there? Because it's not possible to change your sex.
That's right.
100% failure rate for these procedures.
That's right. You can't change your sex.